when you feel that pang of anger that someone makes you mad. I'm sorry, guys, on Facebook. I don't know the Wi-Fi situation here, but what can happen is that you feel so angry that you can just quickly respond. But what we need to do, Alan Moranis writes in the book Alex and I are learning. We didn't see this yet inside, but I think he says you have to like distance like the match and the fuse. It's like, I don't know if that's the right terminology that he used or not, but we have to create space between the anger and the response. And typically a good rule of thumb would be sleep on it before you respond. A lot of times some of the problems go away with a decent night's sleep. It's like it just doesn't matter so much anymore.
Or just take a breath.
Or go like, and what is that doing? That's doing shtika, that's being quiet. Eat something. Being hangry is very challenging situation. Yeah. That's a problem, by the way, at synagogue kiddushes. The rabbi spoke too long. You're now you got kiddush, but there's 4 people in front of you, and they're just taking too much cholent, and you just want it. So there's elbows that can fly. They can get ugly, but hangry is not good. So the point, and I'm sorry again for those we lost on Facebook. If you're back with us now, the point that I'm just making is that when you feel that pang of anger, that pang of tension in your chest, that your heart's racing, you're upset, to pause, to utilize this silence is a deep breath can do that, right? That's silence. Nothing's happening. You're just breathing. Just take it nice and easy, and then that's a great way to go. So that is the first part. Again, this idea of the best thing for yourself is silence. We said that could mean neglecting speaking ill about other people, very critical, crucial thing. We talked about solitude and how everybody needs that. Actually, I almost wrote my college essay about my life experiences in the Schwitz growing up at the JCC. It should come back soon. I know the J's opening soon with COVID. I pray to God they open the Schwitz again. And the greatness of the Schwitz is the silence. It's the heat, but the silence. It's like you get real in the Schwitz. We had a program in high school called Schwitz and Shachris, where we went to the Schwitz before Shachris. It was great. There's a commentary that says our greatest prophets were shepherds because they were with the flock in the fields in the silence, and that's where they had this nevuah, this prophecy, that this insight in that silence. So that solitude is critical. And finally, as we said, the ability to bite your tongue, to create space between the anger and the response. Just want to very quickly go through the other. Let me see if my wife, she told me she got the memo. Okay. Yes. So Sarah, I'm sorry, no. So the next part here is this idea of midrash ikar ela ha'maisa, that learning is not the main thing, but action is the main thing. And what this means basically is he says that learning Torah and speaking about Torah is beautiful. There's nothing better. It's tremendous. But the main thing is that the learning should translate into action. It's better that it should, it should translate into tangible action. So we're here to improve ourselves. We're here to act. It's not so much what we say, but more what we do. He says, let's say somebody talks a big game and they say, I'm going to do this, and they never do it, or they expound and they learn but they never actually do anything. So he connects it to the previous line, and he says, better you would have been quiet and not said anything, and then talk up a big game and not do anything. So this is actually, kind of like let your actions do the talking kind of idea. Don't let sometimes in fantasy football, I run into the mistake of a little too much talk beforehand. I kind of talk up myself, and I end up often losing when I do that. So it's better just let your game do the talking, let your actions do the talking. We don't need to go through our life and tell everyone how great we are. Hopefully they'll see through our actions how great we are, and we don't need to talk ourselves up. Let's be the kind of person that I don't need to tell you about my greatness. You'll see my greatness through my action. So that's important. And then, he says the more that a person speaks, again, the more that they just come to sin. You can get in trouble when you're just too wordy. You talk yourself into circles. You can get yourself into trouble. So that's what he says there for this Mishnah.
Which Mishnah is this?
This is the second to last Mishnah in the first chapter, chapter 1, Mishnah 17. Until she comes. There's one other quick Mishnah I wanted to share, if I can. And we'll start with this one next time. Maybe we'll just get in the zone right now. It is the following. The Mishnah says, this is good stuff right here. Rabbi Tarfon says, this is the end of actually the second chapter, now skipping a chapter, the second to last one. It says, Rabbi Tarfon says, Hayom Katzar, the day is short. Malachim Meruba, there's a lot of work ahead still. Poalim Matselim, the workers are lazy. Naskar Harba, there's a lot of reward to be gained, a lot of profit to make. Ubalabais Dochik, and the boss is kind of knocking. He's like waiting for results. So this, I think, is very important because it kind of is like a metaphor for life, right? That there's this idea that, as I'm sure a lot of you heard me say this, but some of you I'm just meeting for the first time tonight, actually, but some of you heard me say, and one of the greatest lines I think in history of mankind was first issued this line about 20 years ago. When a great poet said, if you had one shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted, would you capture it or let it slip? Yo. So Eminem was really truly onto something here, and I don't really always support. I typically do not support the messages of his material, but this line is brilliant. He's demonstrating if you have one shot or one opportunity, that's this life. This is our chance. We believe in Judaism that a person is eternal, that their soul is eternal, that we were created from the beginning of time, our soul was. And it's, could be we had a previous go around in this world, and now we're reincarnated. Could be we've just been chilling under God's divine throne until the 90s when you were born, or the 2000s, whatever it was. In my case, the 80s. And there became a need for us. There became a need for us. So we'll elaborate on this next week. We'll leave off on a cliffhanger of sorts. Sarah, you ready?
Yeah. Which one is that?
That is 2:15. And don't forget to look at 2:16, where it says, it's not your job to finish it. It's like a camp song. Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor. Lo alecha ligmor.
You guys know that one?
It's not your job to finish it. People make the mistake and they think that life, Judaism is it's all or nothing, but it's not. It's not all or nothing. You do what you can. You try to get started. You strive. If you can't even do it all, it's okay. You have to start. You try. You strive to continue growing. But we'll cover hopefully both of those next week. Okay, awesome. Thank you all. Make sure they all sign up under our team.
We already don't have 3 people here. Sorry.
Anyway, okay, awesome.
You can share.
Yeah, I'll turn it over. Okay, and I'll take. I have some fries. Save me some fries. I made sure, right? I made sure everyone saves those. I'm joking. But it's for you. Enjoy. Okay. Okay. Bye, everyone. All of you fans, person, and it's nice to meet you. Touch base.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. What's up? Oh, thank you.
Thanks for
your help.
I'm sorry. I gotta go jump on these boats.
Thank you, Kayla.
So you love that Millen beer, by the way.
The beer?
I think I finished it.
Maybe I'll find a shop.
Okay.
See if you're
Bye, guys. Thank you. Gotta go. Gotta to the children.
Not so bad. Hi guys, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah. What's your name?
Elon.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
I'm Kansas. What's your friend's name?
My name's Kat.
Kat, hi, welcome.
Nice to meet you.
So nice to have you guys here. The nice chill night. It's just what I needed. Before we start, did Danny talk about Israel at all? No?
A little.
No? Okay, kind of. So there's just a lot going on there right now, and this isn't the topic of tonight's class. But I just feel like I can't get up and speak without acknowledging the reality there right now. I actually just downloaded an app that a colleague told me about. It's like Red Alert for Israel. Have you heard of it? And you see where the rockets are falling, and it shows you the map. It's pretty crazy. Let me just pull it up for you for a second. It's literally in the last little bit, there's been so many rockets. My sister-in-law put on the family chat, they've already been in the bomb shelter twice tonight. It's the middle of the night with her 4 little kids. It's just the whole thing is just scary. So there's constant rockets. I'm looking for the map. Actually, I don't know how to use the app yet.
IDF was posting about it too.
What?
IDF was posting on Twitter
Yeah.
about it.
I saw it there also. Here, I could just pull it up. Okay, so this is in a hospital, a maternity ward. Everyone with their newborn babies, taking them out and holding them in the hallway. This is the map of the rockets and where they're hitting. It's literally everywhere.
I was gonna say, one of my friends actually sent me from Israel. He's in Tel Aviv. He sent me a video. You want to show people it?
Oh, of the rockets exploding? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because I'm sure you guys see it. That's my friend.
All in all, must have been about 20 rockets tonight. Thank God for the iron dome.
Yeah, he's from South Africa.
Choose from all over. Yeah, it's just really crazy, and I think it's important just to be aware of what our friends and our family over there are going through, even though we're so far away and we're so seemingly safe here, and maybe we are at the moment. It's just we have to hold that in our hearts, and I think it's hard not to once we even realize what's going on. And I just hope that our learning tonight can be in the merit of everyone who's been killed and injured, whoever needs a healing, and just to protect all of our brothers and sisters there. So, and then in addition to tonight's learning, if you sign up for Epic Sinai, you can count all your learning for that also. And if you're here, it's so easy because there you anyways have 60 minutes a week. So.
Do you and Danny win something if your team wins?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very competitive.
And Danny is competitive.
In the when we were collecting dollars, we won. It was very competitive, but we managed to keep our way at the top at the end, and we won some travel money to go on vacation.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So thank you. It was for having number of donors. So this obviously is working in difference with minutes. I don't know how the prizes are set up, but I'm sure once we get into it, we'll hear about it. Some healthy competition for good things never hurts, right? Yeah. Okay. So tonight, I view this really as the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks that we've had of Taco Tuesday have kind of been a series, and there's been new people coming and going every week. So each class really is standalone also. But at the same time, we started this right after Passover, and next week we won't be here because it'll be Shavuos. So it's this in-between time between these holidays. And it's not just the in-between time. There's a name for it. It's the Omer, and we count the days and we count the weeks leading up to Shavuos. So until now, we've talked about just different aspects of the Omer and what we can learn from it. And those classes are, I think all of them, if not most of them, are on Facebook. If you're interested in going back, you can count that towards your learning also. But tonight, I really want to focus on, I feel like we've been building up to this, like through the Omer. What are we counting towards? Like, what is all this for? What's the climax? It's not the ending, it should only be the beginning, but like, what's this next step? So I really want to focus on that. And also, Shavuos is Sunday night. I'm sure Danny also mentioned. You should all sign up and come. We're having lots of food and learning. It should be really nice. Hope to see you guys there. But what is it all about? So I want to take a few different angles and talk about what Shavuos is, why it's important, what we can learn from it, and hopefully you'll have a better understanding. I feel like every year I have to like read more and learn more, that, you know, I take the understanding I had when I was in high school, and I'm just, every year I just have to build on it to find my own way to connect to the holiday each year. And I think that's important, you know, like hopefully we're growing as people intellectually, emotionally, maturity every year. And when we come back to something, as we've grown, we can learn new dimensions and aspects of it. And I think in Judaism, that's really important, right? Like if we have this concept of God when we're a kid as like Zeus, I think of the movie Hercules, like Zeus sitting up there. It was so fun when I was a kid. I loved it, and the soundtrack and everything. But like, if that was the perception I had as a kid, then if I kept that now, it would be ridiculous, because there's so much more depth and understanding to be had that, like, why would I want to lose out on that? And then one more plug before we really get into it, because maybe Danny said this also, it's hard when we like, I don't know what he said or didn't say, but all of these books on the back wall, did he talk about it? There's so many good books there. I love books and I love reading, even though I don't have much time to do so. I just love it. And if you even want like recommendations, like we can look at it afterwards. Like I'm just looking like, oh, I love that book, and that one's so good. And Finding Your Spouse in 30 Days, I haven't read that yet, but that looks great too. Who wouldn't, right? So, okay, so Shavuos. So the first aspect of Shavuos that I just wanted to, I'm just saying we have until 8. Okay, the first aspect I just want to talk about is there's this whole point of Shavuos. What is it? It's we received the Torah. It's like maybe arguably the biggest event in world history. I mean, there's the splitting of the sea. Like these things are like well known. They're famous. The getting of the Torah was a really big one. This was like the one time there was a mass revelation of God talking to an entire people. It's just a really big deal. So, but it was given on Mount Sinai. So it could have been given anywhere, right? This could have happened anywhere. We were traveling in the desert. So there's a midrash that says, and maybe some of you have heard this midrash, that all the mountains were fighting. I want the Torah to be given on me. No, the Torah should be given on me. I'm taller, I'm prettier, I have more flowers. Like they're all fighting. And Hashem says to them, you're all missing something. And what is it? That they were all fighting out of arrogance, that it should be me, it should be me. And then little Har Sinai was like off to the side and didn't say a thing. And I think it's like, what's the point of this story? It's so significant that Har Sinai was humble. And it's this trait of humility that it really earned to be this place that was always recognized forever throughout history, that the Torah was given on Mount Sinai, right? As Danny's teaching Pirkei Avos, it says in the very beginning, the Torah was given from Mount Sinai. And it doesn't say Be Har Sinai, at the mountain. It says Me Har Sinai, from the mountain. So why does it say from the mountain? Isn't it a geographical location? But I think it's saying that we learn Torah from Har Sinai, that it's this lesson of humility that's a prerequisite to our learning. And I think this just falls in line with this time of the Omer that we've been counting as a time of self-development. We're working on different traits within ourselves every day as we're counting. And it makes so much sense, because having good character is a prerequisite to be able to receive the Torah. And so this is where humility, there's a place where we see that humility ties into that. The next part of it I want to talk is similar in that it's maybe a character trait. I think it's a character trait that allows us to get to this point. And it says when we received the Torah that the Jewish people stood there like one person with one heart. And it's just interesting because usually when you have a bunch of Jews in the room, if you have 3 Jews in the room, right, how many opinions do you have? We're very opinionated people. And you see, even with the state of Israel, right, like the government, we're so opinionated. So it's such a big deal that the Jewish people stood at the mountain like one person with one heart. And it's this idea of unity. And I think that's another prerequisite. That in order to really receive the Torah and this wisdom and to be a part of this eternal covenant, yeah, like if you're born into it, technically it's yours, but to really be able to receive it and to follow it and to carry it through is, sorry, I want to just take it off, but I'm getting like alerts. I think it's just my ring with Sammy. Okay, so anyways, so being together and unified, and also this trait of humility, and maybe they work hand in hand, right? For a people to be unified, we have to be humble enough not to think, oh, my way is right, it's the only way. We have to like be able to look at people and to see their value also and to know our place. And I mean, it's a whole nother class we do on humility. There's so much to talk about. And unity also, maybe we could do that next. I'm totally open, whatever like we do next. So if you want to like go through character traits, I did that a few years ago with this great book with Heart and Mind. And it was, I don't know, I love it all. Any learning is, well, like anything that, whatever. I love learning. So whatever you want to learn, you can tell me. And we can try to work it in. So, okay, so humility and unity are so important that they're, I think, central parts of this holiday is just to remember and to appreciate and to just have in mind and think about. So then there's another theme which I'm going to develop a little bit longer, and it's the theme of threes. Okay, so now we're going to go in and get a little bit deeper. So right now we're in the Hebrew month of Sivan, and I love also like tying in the time of the year and the energy of the months. So Sivan is interesting because according to the Jewish calendar, there's different New Years, right? There's like Rosh Hashanah, which is, right, we all know that's like the new year, right? We start over. It's actually when Adam, when the human being was first created, that was Rosh Hashanah. And then there's another new year of Nisan, which is when we became the Jewish people, when we were taken out of Egypt. Nisan is considered also, it's like spring and rebirth. So that's the month of Passover, and that's also considered the Jewish New Year. So Sivan now, the month that we're in now, or we're starting
2
tomorrow.
days, yeah.
Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, because today's
Okay.
demon.
Tonight. I think tonight.
I think tomorrow.
Like tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah, tonight is
'Cause that's the
tomorrow.
Hebrew calendar.
Tonight's tomorrow.
Yeah. It's so confusing. So this month now is the third month. Okay, so we had Nisan and then ER, which we talked about a few weeks ago, and Sivan is now what we're starting. And just threes, just to think about others threes. There's always significance in numbers in Judaism. Like everything interconnects, and we'll get back to that soon. And just kind of a little more how that works because it's very cool. Moshe was the third child in his family. It took 3 days for the Jewish people to prepare for giving the Torah. And then also if you think about when we became a nation and we're each given different roles, there's the Kohen, the Levi, and the Yisrael. There's like 3 different jobs within the Jewish people. And depending on those who descended from Moshe were Leviim, those who are descended from Aaron are Kohanim, and then everyone else are Yisrael. And like, you could easily think that some are better than the other. The Kohanim get to serve in the temple, but like they also, and like the Leviim are the teachers, but everyone is so important, and it's really a system that we all just have different jobs, and they're all so necessary. There's no like one better than the other. We all have our role to fill. Okay, but that's also 3. So in order to really understand more about 3, I'm going to pause from 3 for a minute and just talk about this concept of truth. And the Hebrew word for truth, anyone know? Yeah. So emet, the word emet or ms is comprised of 3 letters. How do you spell it? I'm getting a little bit harder now. Yeah. Okay, so Aleph is what letter in the alphabet? The first. Taf is what letter?
The last.
What letter is Mem?
The middle.
The middle. Good job. So it's really cool that truth, the word for truth, and like every Hebrew word has so much meaning. You can take it apart and it encompasses this first, the last, and the middle. And that's because the truth, and a lot of this is based on the Maharal, which is like a very Kabbalistic type of commentary. He says that truth is, it's not just like either you're telling the truth or you're lying. There's a lot more depth to what truth is, and it's really the entire picture. So if you look at truth in terms of time, it's the past, the present, and the future. And it's the internal and the external, right? There's all these different dimensions to things. So truth is like the bigger picture and really understanding it all. And so to have like a check, if something's truthful, if something is really true, it should hold spiritually, physically, mathematically, philosophically. It must work on all levels. And I think that's why so much of what we learn is like interconnected, because when it's truth, it's just, yeah, that applies here or that applies there. And you see it in all these different situations because that's like, it's truth. It's part of the building blocks of the universe and how it works, right? Like once you know about gravity, then you see gravity in all different situations. And even when there's no gravity, you see how, like the effect of no gravity. Like think about the times before we even understood gravity. I don't know, it's kind of mind-boggling, but like we understand that now. It's so cool. So, okay, being mortal is kind of tricky. It puts us in a hard situation when it comes to truth because we don't know the future. And what we know of the past is just what we hear from other people. And even what we see in the present, everything is interpretations of even our own emotional subjectivity, right? So like, how do we know what the truth is then? Does anyone else wonder? Is that clear? Like, how do you know if something's true? If like, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, we didn't know what happens in the past, who knows what's even going on at the moment? Because like, we will see different sides of things, right? That's what happens. Like in a court case, the witnesses walk in and like they saw 2 totally different things. My son, they watched 12 Angry Men. You're familiar with that movie? Yeah, from your responses. So they're doing a play about it, but like they're trying to come to the truth and it takes them so long to try to figure out, right? And different people saw things from different angles. And so I heard just this morning, sometimes I quote things I hear on Naki radio. It's like this Jewish Wi-Fi radio we got for our kids. And they're always listening to stories and stuff, and I love it. So this morning, there was a story where Ellie Scheller was telling. It was from, so in the New York Times, in the year, I think it was about 1998, there was this wealthy guy, and he decided that he was going to take out an ad on the front page of the New York Times every Friday and post the candle lighting times for Shabbos. So all the Jews would know when it's time to light your Shabbos candles. Okay, so he did this for about 6 months, and then he's like, okay, I did it. I don't need to do it forever. And he stopped. So then January in the year 2000, the cover of the New York Times, it was split into 3 different sections. So the first section was like, what was news 100 years ago? And then the middle section was, what's today's news in 2000? And then the next section is, what do we think news is going to be? What do we project in 100 years from now? Right? With the robots and the cars that drive themselves, and some of these things are starting to come true. We have our robot vacuum going in the house. But one other thing that was on that bottom portion of the page was the candle lighting times. So this guy looked at the paper and he's like, that's strange. Like, I don't think I'm paying for this anymore. Like, what's going on? So he called the CEO of the New York Times and he asked him, what's candlelighting? It was a Friday. What's candlelighting doing on the front cover, on the bottom of the front cover? So the CEO tells him, he says, we know what happened 100 years ago. We know what's happening at the moment, but we really have no idea what the next 100 years is going to look like. And all we do know, though, is that the Jews will still be here and they'll still be lighting Shabbos candles. I just thought that was like so powerful. Like on a separate note, like all these things come and go, right? The trends come and go. What's cool? What kind of car? Like so many different things come and go. But there's one thing that's constant. And I thought it was just such a good reminder that like, how do we connect to that value, right? How are we going to make sure that our kids and grandkids are part of those people who are still doing it? So that was powerful. But past, present, future, like we only really know so much. So real truth, as we're talking about like MS is transcendental. It's above time, it's above space. And the only time we really had access to it was at Mount Sinai, at the giving of the Torah. God's voice giving us the Torah was the one time that like we really like had full clarity, right? Don't we wish we had clarity in our lives about everything? Like, what should I be doing now? Who should I marry? When should I don't know, go on vacation or do this? When should I start looking for a new job? If we had clarity, it would be so helpful. But okay, so going back now to 3. Okay, so when you have a chain and there's 3 links, right? There's a first link and then there's a second link. The third link is the first one that is no longer touching the first link, but it's connected. So the number 3 has this aspect that it's still connected to the past, but it's creating something separate and something transcendent for the future. Okay, so it's this aspect of like something new. So for example, Moshe was the third in his family. So this gift of monotheism that we had from Abraham, he's now, as a third child, he's taking that and he's bringing that forward to its next place in human history of bringing the Jews out of Egypt to become a people. It's like the next stage of history. And so that's also how Sivan, the month, is connected to Nisan, right? Nisan, we come out of Egypt, and it's the birth of a nation. But in Sivan, it's really like we receive the Torah. Maybe I'm trying to think how the analogy works. Because like the real birth maybe was when we received the Torah and we got like our marching orders. And okay, what do we do now? Now like we're free, but now we know what to actually do. So what does it mean to live in transcendence? So I'm going to tell you a story that I read from Rebbetzin Heller, or Heller Gottlieb, as she's known now. She was saying, what's this concept of transcendence? So she lives in Israel. She teaches at Neve. She was in New York and she was taking a train in New Jersey. And there were like 4 of them on the platform. It was pretty empty. And there was one woman and she fell backwards. And so they went over to her to see if she was okay, and she was unconscious. So this other lady then goes up to the woman, says to Rebbetzin Heller, do you know first aid? And Rebbetzin Heller's like, I don't know first aid. So then this woman took her pulse and started doing CPR. Okay, and then once Rebbetzin Heller saw what she was doing, then she was able to take over and to give her a break. And they were there with the woman and trying to help her. And Rebbetzin Heller called 911 until someone came. And so who comes? A policeman. He's the first to come. Like, no, we need a paramedic. So anyways, they're waiting for a paramedic, and then all of a sudden, the train station starts rumbling, and the train arrives. That first woman who knew first aid, although she didn't think she knew first, like, I guess it's all relative. She knew what to do. She was the only one there who knew most what to do to help. She got on the train, and she left before the paramedics came. So Rebbetzin Heller was just like shocked. Like, what's more important, staying with this woman and trying to save her life? Or even if you're going on a job interview and you haven't had a job in a year, like if you were to ask this woman the day before, what's more important, like this interview or saving someone's life, hopefully it would be clear that life takes precedence. And this is a very important value in Judaism, that we do so much to save lives and to protect ourselves and take care of our bodies. And she said the woman leaving the train station, that's the opposite of transcendental truth, meaning like there's a higher value. And living with it is being a part of this transcendental truth. So if she would have instead stayed, like that would have been an example of this truth. And it's interesting to me because this word transcendence, let me see how much time we have. Oh my gosh, it's 8:02. Okay, never mind. So the last thing I'm gonna say is there's so much more to learn. There's always more to learn. So on Shavuos, we read one of the Megillas. Okay, so there's 3 major Jewish holidays, being Passover, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Okay, and they all like correspond to Harvest Festival, and on each one of them, there's 5 Megillas. On each one of them, though, we read one of the Megillas. I know it doesn't cover all the Megillas. We read the other ones at other times. Now, here's my red alert notification. It's a brackets. So we read Megillas Ruth on Shavuos. Why? I'm not going to even tell you the whole story of Ruth now. Go home and look it up.
Come to my class at 2 a.m.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Sunday night at 2 a.m. I love that you're doing that. Okay. So what is the story of Ruth? I'm not going to tell you, but what I am going to tell you is she lived this transcendental truth. She was a princess in Moab. Her and her sister, Orpah, they were princesses of the king of Moab. They lived in luxury. And what happened to this Jewish family? There was a famine. And poor people were coming to them for food. And they're like, oh no, we're going to run out of food. So what happened? The father was like, let's leave Israel. And no one can come take our food from us. Okay? That's also not like transcendent. Like, that's not the right thing to do. So they moved out of Israel. And the family was the husband, the wife, and the 2 sons. And they settled. And the sons both married these Moabite princesses. What happened? The husband died, the sons died, and now Naomi is left with her 2, there's 2 more rackets, with her 2 daughter-in-laws. And she says to them, like, I have nothing left here. I'm going to go back to my people. But your princesses, like, go back to your father. You'll be taken care of. I have nothing to offer you. So they say, no, we want to come with you. We want to come with you. And she's trying to discourage them. And one of them ends up coming with her. And she says, wherever you go, I will go. Your people are my people. Your God is my God. And she converted. And she became Jewish. And she went back with Ruth and with Naomi. And they lived in poverty. She had to go collect wheat in the field. And I'm totally not telling the whole story. There's so much more to it. But the point is that, like, she left this luxury because she saw that there was truth. And I know it's a hard concept. I really feel that it is a hard concept to understand. But I think just maybe to take away from this of just our own values and to remember what's important, right? And values are so important. When I talk about dating, like, it's all of that. We're talking about values and the importance of values because that's really the core of a successful relationship, right? Goals are second important. Interests are nice, but like everything comes back to those values. And the Torah, we're so lucky, like we're given these beautiful, amazing values. So we should learn about them, we should live them, and we should let them uplift us to transcendence beyond this world to really do what's right and live a meaningful, purposeful life. And if anyone wants help at the table, I'm happy to make recommendations. There's something else I just want to mention, that was the last thing, is that I've spoken to some of you about this, but there's all these different kinds of travel opportunities this summer. So there's retreats. There's retreats for women. There's retreats for men also. It's like getaway and nature and learning, and they're really nice, bonding, and like really fun experiences. So if that interests anyone, you can let me know. I can send you more information. There's for guys, there's like maybe even 3 or 4 different sets of dates. So it could be one of them will work for you. And they're great programs. So that's all. Thanks, guys. Any questions?